All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we're gonna read the last story, the last adventure of Sherlock Holmes, and next time I'm gonna be starting a new book that I've been talking about for a while. It's my all-time favorite book from my childhood about the little boy and his flying friend. So I'm gonna start that book on Monday. But today we're gonna read case number 3 of the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. This one is called A Scandal in Bohemia. Chapter 1. To Sherlock Holmes, she is always the woman. I've seldom heard him mention her by any other name. To him, she is above all other women. It's not that he feels anything like love for Irene Adler. All emotions, love especially, are alien to his cold, precise, but admirably balanced mind. He is, in my opinion, the most perfect reasoning and observing machine the world has ever seen. I had not seen much of Sherlock Holmes lately. I'd gone married and moved, while he remained at our lodgings on Baker Street. From time to time I saw reports in the papers of him solving some great crime or other, but that was about it. One night I was heading home after attending to a patient when I found myself on Baker Street. I looked up to see Holmes's window brightly lit, and his tall, thin figure pacing the room swiftly, his head sunk on his chest and his hands clasped behind him. I knew all his moods and habits and could not tell that he was hot on the scent of some new problem. I rang the bell and went up. "You look happy and healthy, my dear Watson," he said as we settled before the fire. "And in practice again, though you told me that you didn't think you ever would." Then how do you know? "I see it, I deduce it. I also see that you have been getting yourself very wet lately, and have a clumsy servant girl. My dear Holmes, this is too much. In olden days you'd have been burned at the stake as a witch. I did get wet on Thursday during a walk in the country, but I've changed my clothes since then. And yes, Mary Jane is hopeless. My wife just fired her. But how do you know these things?" He chuckled to himself. "Simple, Watson. The leather on the inside of your left shoe is scratched in 4 parallel cuts. It's obvious that someone very carelessly scraped mud from it recently. So I can see that you've been out in foul, bad weather, and were not very well taken care of afterward. As for your practice, you walked in here smelling of iodine, with a stethoscope stored in your hat. I'd be an idiot indeed not to deduce that you are practicing medicine again." I laughed. "When you explain, it seems almost so ridiculously simple, but I'm baffled until you point out each thing and how you've interpreted it. Yet my eyes are as good as yours." "You see, but you don't observe," said Holmes. "For instance, you've often climbed the stairs to this apartment." "Yes, hundreds of stairs." "How many steps are there?" "I don't know." "Exactly, you haven't observed. By the way, I'm on a new case. My client should be here at any moment. I received a note saying that a man would come at 7:45 p.m. and not be surprised that he'll be wearing a mask." "A mask? How mysterious. What do you suppose that means?" I asked. "I have no data yet. It is a major mistake to theorize before one has data. It makes you twist facts to fit theories, instead of coming up with theories that fit the facts. We'll have answer soon enough. Here he comes." There was a loud, authoritative tap, and a man entered. He was more than 6 feet 6 inches tall, with powerful arms and chest. He was grandly dressed, obviously a very wealthy man. A black mask covered the upper part of the man's face. "You received my note?" he asked in a German accent. "Yes, I'm Sherlock Holmes, and this is my friend, Dr. Watson. You may trust him as you do me. Please have a seat and tell us why you're here." "Call me Count von Kram. I must bind you both to absolute secrecy. This is a matter of great importance. It could affect European politics." "Of course," said Holmes. Excuse the mask, I admit that the name I just gave is not my own. I am aware of that, said Holmes, taking a seat and closing his eyes. This surprised our visitor, who stared. Holmes opened his eyes and gave the man an impatient look. If your majesty would please tell me why you are here, he said, I would be better able to help you. The man leaped from his chair. You're right, I am the king of Bohemia. Indeed, said Holmes. You hadn't spoken before I was aware of who you are. You are Wilhelm Gottrich Sigismund von Ornstein, Grand Duke of Castelfelstein, and soon to be King of Bohemia. Yes, but how? Never mind that now. Why do you seek my help? I'm about to be married to the daughter of the King of Scandinavia. So I've heard. The marriage is most important to both our countries. Nothing must stop it, but a woman from my past is threatening to do just that. Who was she? Asked Holmes. Irene Adler, an opera singer. 5 years ago I met her and was fascinated. I wrote her love letters and followed her everywhere. I was young and foolish. Was there a secret marriage? Asked Holmes. No, nothing like that, said the king. But she has the letters and a photo of us together. She says that she'll show them to my fiancé to make her jealous. Then your majesty must pay her whatever she asks. She doesn't want money, she wants me. She vowed that I won't marry any woman but her. Then have someone take the letters and photograph. I tried, but it didn't work. She is going to send them to my fiancé in 3 days, when our engagement is announced in the newspapers. We have plenty of time, said Holmes. Give the lady's address, then go back to your hotel. I'll let you know how we progress. When the king had gone, Holmes turned to me. Can you come by tomorrow at 3, Watson? You may be able to help me. Chapter 2. I did as he asked. Holmes was not in when I arrived, but the landlady let me in to wait by the fire. It was nearing 4 o'clock when a strange, drunken-looking man and a workman with a puffy red face and messy clothes stumbled in. I leaped up in surprise, as used as I am to my friend's masterful use of disguise. I had to look 3 times before I was certain that it was he. He disappeared into his room. He soon returned, looking like his usual self. What a day I've had, Watson, he said, laughing heartily. I've spent it watching Miss Irene Adler. I hung out with some workers at a stable across the street. It's amazing what they notice and can tell you. I got full biographies on her and half a dozen other people in the neighborhood I cared nothing about. What of Irene Adler? I asked. Oh, all the men are wild about her. They say that she's the daintiest thing under a bonnet. She lives alone and rarely goes out except to sing. Drives out 5 every day and returns at 7. Sees only one male visitor, a Mr. Godfrey Norton, a lawyer. He is dark, handsome, and dashing. As I watched the house, Norton arrived in a cab. In an obvious hurry, he went in, stayed about half an hour. The cab waited and dashed back out again. Drive as fast as you can, he told the cab driver, and gave him 2 addresses. The second was the Church of St. Monica. I was about to follow when Miss Adler's carriage pulled up to her door, and she dashed out and climbed in. She is a lovely woman with a face that a man might die for. The Church of St. Monica, she cried, and please hurry. I ran for a cab and told the driver, the Church of St. Monica, and please hurry. When I got there, the couple were already there and were being married. I was afraid that they would slip off on their honeymoon and ruin all my plans. At the church doors, however, they took separate cabs. I'll drive out to the park at 5 as usual, she told him, and went home. So I went off and made my arrangements. Which are a bite to eat, said Holmes. But I'd like your help this evening, Doctor. I'd be delighted. Good, we must be at Miss Adler's when she returns at 7. Do as I say, nothing more or less, and all will be well. Certainly. What can I do? Well, when she arrives, there will be some unpleasantness. Don't interfere, no matter what. I will be taken into the house. 4 or 5 minutes later, you'll find the living room window open. Stand next to it and watch me. When I raise my hand like this, throw in what I'll give you to throw. Then shout, fire. It'll be a small, harmless device that makes a lot of smoke. After you yell, tell a lot of other people will join the cry. Walk to the end of the street and wait. I'll meet you there in 10 minutes, and by then I'll know where the king's papers are. Chapter 3. Everything went according to plan. As the lady returned from her drive, some men lounging on the corner began fighting. Their flying fists nearly struck her as she stepped from her carriage. Sherlock Holmes, disguised as a kind-looking churchman, went dashing in to rescue her and was struck senseless. "Oh, is the poor man hurt?" asked the lady, obviously worried. "He is dead," cried several voices. "No, he'll be all right," cried some other voices. Bring him to my couch," said Miss Adler. "He must be seen to." Holmes was carried in, and I took my place by the window. I don't know how he felt, but I was ashamed of myself for playing such a trick on such a kind and beautiful creature. Still, at Holmes's signal, I did as he asked. "Fire!" I shouted, as smoke poured from the room. "Fire!" shouted the crowd. I melted away to the corner. Holmes soon joined me there. "You did very well, Watson," he said. "The king's letters and photograph are behind a sliding panel hidden in the wall of her bedroom." When the smoke filled the house, she ran there to make sure they were all right, and I caught a glimpse of them. She didn't see me. I cried out that it was a false alarm, told her I felt well again, thanked her, and went on my way. In the morning, we'll go there with the king. He can get them himself. Chapter 4. The next morning, I was with Sherlock Holmes when the king arrived. "You have them," he cried, grabbing Holmes excitedly by the shoulders. "Not yet," said Sherlock Holmes, "but we'll have them shortly." As we rode to Miss Adler's in the king's carriage, Holmes told the king all that had happened. "Irene Adler got married yesterday," he said. "Married? To whom?" "An English lawyer named Norton. But she can't love him. She always said that she loved him. Hope that she does love him, Your Majesty," said Holmes. "If she does, she doesn't love you anymore, and so won't mind if you marry someone else." At the Adler house, an elderly woman stood at the open door as if waiting for us. "Mr. Sherlock Holmes?" she asked. "I am he," said Holmes, surprised. "My mistress said that you'd be here. She left this morning with her husband by the 5:15 train." "What?" Holmes staggered backward, white with shame and surprise. "She left England, never to return." "All is lost," cried the king. "We shall see." Holmes pushed past the woman and rushed to the hiding place. He pulled back the sliding door, stuck in his hand, and pulled out a photograph and a letter. The photo was of Irene Adler. The letter was addressed to Sherlock Holmes. He tore it open, and we three read it together. "Dear Mr. Sherlock Holmes, you really did very well. You fooled me completely until after the fire alarm. But after I'd betrayed my secret place, I began to think I was warned of you months ago. I was told you are a master of disguise. I was sure that the king would hire you, if anyone. It was hard to distrust a kind old clergyman, but disguises are nothing new to me. I am in opera, you will remember. As soon as you left, I put on my own disguise and followed you. When you stopped at 221 B Baker Street, which I knew is your address, there was no more doubt. My husband and I decided to leave immediately. You will find the nest empty. As to the photograph and letters, tell the king that he may rest in peace. I love and am loved by a better man than he, but I will leave another photo that he may wish to have. Very truly yours, Irene Adler Norton." "What a woman," cried the king of Bohemia. "She is brilliant." "Indeed she is," said Holmes coldly. "I'm sorry that I could not bring your Majesty's business to a more successful end." "On the contrary, dear sir," said the king, I know that she won't break her word. I am as safe as if the letters and photo were in the fire. I'm glad to hear you say so. I am forever in your debt. Will you take money? Jewels? Here, take this ring. He pulled a huge emerald from his finger and held it out to my unhappy friend. Your Majesty has something that I would value much more, said Holmes. Name it. This photograph. Irene's photograph, asked the king. Certainly, if you want to have it. Thank you, said Holmes, still icy. There's no more to be done. I have the honor of wishing you a very good morning. Your Majesty. He turned and left without noticing the hand the king held out for him to shake. That was how a great scandal had threatened to affect the kingdom of Bohemia, and how the best plans of Sherlock Holmes had been beaten by a woman's wit. To this day, whenever he speaks of Irene Adler or refers to her photograph, it is always under the honorable title of the woman. That's the end of our last story of Sherlock Holmes. So again, to remind you, on Monday I'm going to be starting a book, which I've been talking about for a very long time because it's my favorite from my childhood. It's called Karlson, and it's about a little boy who one time noticed a little flying man on his roof, and how they became best friends and their adventures together. So I'm going to start that on Monday, and have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and see you soon.